So good afternoon. So we are from Lukwa Group. We are going to present the skills and patterns of Mueng Petch craftspeople. So the reason that we have a Lukwa name is actually a holy plant, a holy tree of Petchburi Province. So we named our group after this particular holy tree. And we have established a few years ago in 2006 to learn about the crafts and skills of Petchburi Province. And we have been continuously working, particularly in two areas that we are working on right now in Khao Wang Cable Car and the Art Center in Wat Yai Temple. So our cultural heritage is actually about the skills and patterns of craftspeople, which is actually meticulous, delicate, and very and unique, which can be found in various temples. So our community in Petchburi, geographically, Petchburi Province is a province that has long history in our temple, monasteries, and heritage sites, which is actually a center for craftspeople. And if you see in the image, next image, this is Petchburi pre-Ayutthaya period. You can see the Petchburi River running through. It has two sides, the west and the east. And you can see the monasteries and temples scattering around. Wat Suwandararam, Wat Prasong, Wat Chai, or Wat Khao Bandai It. All these temples and monasteries have the masters of the craftspeople. So the craftspeople of the Petchburi Province is inherently linked with religion, and it initiated at the temple, starting with the abbots and the monks who knows about the art. And in the past, Petchburi Province actually initiated in the temple, and they have collectively come together into a group. And they have developed their groups such as the craftspeople of Wat Suwandararam, Chang Wat Got, craftspeople, and they are renowned for their unique skills. So particularly at Wat Suwandararam, which is the temple that existed in the Ayutthaya period with meticulous art, whether in the sermon halls, in the main hall, main temple, woodwork, and sculptures and murals. And it has been mentioned by the King Rama the Fifth, and he said that if anybody want to actually see the crafts of the craftspeople, everyone should visit the arts at the Wat Suwandararam. So with this particular cultural heritage, there are so many categories, and many of them are very old. Some of them have already passed away. And people who actually visit these temples might not recognize these patterns and skills, and they are actually touched because they don't know the value of the art. And also this arts and these crafts and skills has not been passed on. It has not been passed on, but it can be passed on through the children and youth who want to participate. And also it can be passed on through professionals, such as people who intern or work as apprentices with the crafts people. So the project that we want to do in collaboration with the community is actually particularly on the gold gilding, on the columns that exist in the sermon hall of Wat Suwandararam Varavihan. So the sermon hall of this particular monastery was actually the former residence of the King Rama VIII, and which has been passed on to the Holy Patriarch of Thailand, Tengmo. So this is an image of the sermon hall. As you can see, there are columns with designs. There's actually 16 columns and 8 pairs of columns, and you can see the patterns and designs fading away. So what we did was that we consulted with the abbot, and also the craft masters in Petchburi that we want to safeguard the patterns of these columns and what we can do about it. So they suggested that we trace the patterns on the columns. So this is an image on how we trace the patterns of what we found. And after we have copied or traced the patterns, we consulted with the craft master Kru Pithiya Silapasorn, and we shared and consulted what kind of equipment or what we need. So this is the first pair of the column, second pair, and these are the designs that has been traced from all the columns in the monastery. In the monastery. So this is actually the fifth pair. There's actually 16 columns, and all the designs are different. But their designs are actually pretty close, depending on the skills of the craftsmaster. This is how they link the patterns together. This is the Goicheng pattern using a ganok design and being placed and linked next to each other. And it's really depending on each master. And linking these patterns, it's connected from Lai Pum pattern, then from the top to the bottom, and expanding the design in order to create the symmetry to the pattern. So the Nakadan pattern consists of the Ganok pattern and flower pattern, which is laid out horizontally and divided by a single line, by single lines. And Pajamton pattern is actually, you can see the linking of flower patterns together. So once we have learned all the patterns, the next step is actually to learn about the wood platform and gilding technique. So the wood base, we have learned from Kru Vichian, who is the craftsmaster of the gilding, and he works at Wat Suwandararam, and Kun Kru from teacher Pithiya as well. This is particularly about the gilding technique learned from Kru Vichian and Kru Thanin Chunjai. So the period of our project about learning from these skills and patterns, we are aiming really to, having mock columns, like 2 of them, and we want to safeguard and conserve the patterns and maybe showcase the patterns once we are finished. And we're going to have the 12 columns, and we're going to use about 2 to 3 years. So the benefit to the community is actually to preserve this particular skills and patterns for the province, and also to pass on the pattern tracing technique, and also creating that document heritage for them to keep. And also we can actually be the source of knowledge, and serves as the knowledge hub for people who are interested in this type of pattern arts. So the participation of the community from first the craftsmen from Petchburi Province, so they'll be the expert to teach us about the skills, and the monks and the seminaries can actually facilitate us, and people in the community around the Wat Suwandararam temple can actually learn and tell the story, and the media can actually take part in actually publicizing our activities, and the youth group, Lukwa group, and other youth in the community can actually take part in the activity. So this is actually the first event that we've conducted, and this is the first gilding process that has been done to mark the beginning of our project. So thank you very much. Please, the first commentator, Kun Chachandra.
The idea behind what you wish to do. On the presentation itself, I
ใน
was
การ
not
นำเสนอนะครับ
very clear as to the link between the columns that you're going to produce and what you're going to do with how it will be propagated in the community. What I understood, and maybe I'm wrong, you can comment on this later, is that you wish to, it's going to be built around the temple where the patterns are, right? I mean, that's what I understood. On that point, I think that's a pretty wonderful thing to do, given that that's where the patterns are. But I'd like to make a general comment, as I did before. If you are thinking about sustainability in terms of the patterns, in terms of knowledge, in terms of people getting interested, try to find a way to bring those patterns into everyday life. And I think you can. These are incredibly beautiful, intricate patterns that perhaps can go into many, many different aspects of life. Sheets, curtains, adornments, jewelry. There is so many ways in which these patterns can come into our lives and be supported by general retail. So, and the interest is generated. Just to give an example, if you have time to look at some of the intricate patterns that come out of, say, the Gucci's of this world, or Louis Vuitton, or the main fashion houses, you would find very similar fleur-de-lis, which is flower-based patterns that are taken from many cultures. So you can make this mainstream, and you can make it broader. I mean, I say this all the time because I believe, given especially if you look at what happened this year and what could happen later, the Thailand, and from what I've seen the last couple of presentations, is incredibly diverse, incredibly deep, and universal culture. It's a trading nation that has been absorbing its own way in changing the narrative to its own style. It has had certain influences, but it still maintains its strong, independent identity. Now, that is second to none. And that's why I keep saying, try to think beyond just the tourism approach. This is going to take time. I mean, I come from Sri Lanka, just to give an example. In 1963, a lady called Barbara Sansoni set out to create hand-woven fabric. We are a very post-colonial nation. We were conquered, unlike Thailand. And my grandparents and parents were always in awe of British colonial fabric and colonial furniture. Today, this generation seldom buys anything else except from Sri Lankan retailers and designers. So it took 30 years to change the habit and the value system to appreciate what is in our land itself. And I think it's going to take time, but I urge you and encourage you that you have the depth, you have phenomenal skills, and especially now, if you look at major centers like Bangkok, design skills that permeate through household, to adornments, to every aspect, that you can bring these beautiful designs and structures into the life that provide ultimately a livelihood to those who wish to propagate it. So I'll end up and comment, and I say thank you to UNESCO and everyone for fantastic presentations. The passion is there, the knowledge is there, and I wish you all the very best.
Kun Jitendra ka, so the team has already tried to answer you. So they wrote instead, they said like in terms of like whether they can kind of extend the use of these patterns or not. The Klum Lukwa group has already initiated some little projects to design using these patterns on like tote bags and lanterns as well. So they've been trying to find a practical way and proper way, like as you show in the photos, it's like the tote bag with the patterns here. Yeah, for example. So they forgot to talk about this, but this is what they have been doing.
Commentator, Kun Kaylin, please.
Hi, thank you for showing that beautiful tote bag. I find your work extremely meaningful, and I really love the patterns that you show from your presentations. They're all very, very beautiful. And I'm just curious about, from my understanding, that you're working with those experts from the community who has the skill at the pattern, and you're trying to learn from them, and you're helping them to either fix or recreate the paint in So can you elaborate a bit about how big is your team? How long does it finish to finish? Because I think it's a very detailed oriented. Actually, how long does it take to fix, for example, 1 meter long of the pattern? And how would you like to expand? And I heard that at the end that you're trying to bring it young people from your community into this exercise, this activity as well. Maybe can you explain a bit more about what is the plan of how do you want to engage more young people into this?
ค่ะ น้องสุดารักษ์เปิดไมค์ไหมคะ หรือใครดี สักท่านหนึ่งในทีม คุณเคลินถามว่า ได้ฟังคำแปลแล้วใช่ไหมคะ
โอเคค่ะ
โอเคค่ะ เชิญค่ะ
สำหรับการมีส่วนร่วมเนี่ยค่ะตอนนี้เรา
So in terms of participation, right now we welcome all the youth to join the activities, and then to learn about the skills and patterns, and actually teach them about the history of these patterns, and they can actually do activity like hands
ของการระดมทุนที่อยากจะชวนทุกคนเนี่ยมีส่วนร่วมในการร่วมกันรักษาลายเสาอันนี้ไว้ด้วย
on experience, and then want everyone to actually help preserve. So the tote bag has been 150 of them have been sold. If everyone is here at the temple, they can actually design their own tote bag and do it, or they can actually buy the bag, and the income will actually be used to preserve the patterns. So how long does it take for you to trace the patterns?
Hello.
ลายเสาร่วมในเนี่ยค่ะที่เราร่วมกันคัดลอกมาเนี่ยเรา
So the patterns that has been traced, we spent about 1 year. So we invite the crafts masters to help with the pattern tracing, and we also have a book that they have already done the tracing, and we also did the literature review on that, and the craftsmaster has assisted us with the adjustments of the patterns, and the period of using the pattern tracing, like one column would use about 1 month to trace. And we also need to learn on the wood platform and also gilding. So that's why the first wood actually spent a long time, 1 whole year to learn about everything. And right now we are in the second wood platform. And we actually began
เนี่ยต้องทำแบบไหนแล้วก็ต้องใช้งบประมาณเท่าไหร่แล้วก็ตอนนี้กำลังทำในเฟสที่2อยู่ค่ะซึ่งจะทำอีก3แผ่นด้วยกันซึ่งตอนนี้ทำไปแล้ว1แผ่นค่ะแล้วก็คือตอนนี้มีงานสำเร็จแล้วเนี่ยก็คือ2แผ่น
began with 1 wood, and we have actually 2 patterns being produced, and there's 10 more that we need to finish.
Okay.
กลุ่มลูกว่าตอนนี้มี
So how many are you? We're 3, who is permanent, and we also have other volunteers who actually comes around and participate in our activities, and we have our network, and we have members who have learned from other places as well, so there's knowledge sharing.
ปิดท้าย
Thank
ค่ะ
you so much. Thank you, Kun Thanongchai, to close.
จริงสิอันนี้คือน้องต้องการอนุรักษ์หรือต่อยอดหรือว่ายังไงอะครับอันนี้ถามนิดนึง
To safeguard or maybe expand on this particular heritage.
ให้
So maybe I can throw a question and something you to ponder upon. So I think you're more on a conservation or safeguarding. So I think the craftsmaster of the Petchburi, they're actually part of the royal craftsmen, 10 royal craftsmen, and it's actually very systematic already because and pet craftspeople masters are actually important part of Thailand, and they're actually very strong. They have their teachers, their masters, and people and their own students. And in terms of your conservation or safeguarding and activities you're doing, so I don't know if it ultimately will, be useless. So I think I want to pose a question of the future, the direction that you're going towards. So if you want to promote this into a product, or maybe like creative economy, or maybe how do you want to promote this? How do you create awareness and the pride of these craftsmasters? Because actually, they're actually the craftsmasters of Petchburi. They're only one of a kind. They're actually at risk with the technology development. I think it's very difficult, really, how you expand. Maybe you want to be clear, really, of what you're doing now and where you're going. Maybe is it like modernizing it, or focusing on tourism, or creating more awareness, or just accessing or disseminating this knowledge to the children or youth, and maybe you may want to find more information whether this has been done before or not. Thank you so much. It's actually something I throw in as food for thought, for them to be clear about their direction and activities, and who will these activities be for. So that's the end of our 17 youth showcase.